Hi, Recent Revelry. A pleasure to meet you. I wasn't expecting to actually do another video this week, funny enough, as I've got some Pantheon stuff in the works, but a little thing known as NFTs came to my head, and the sort of relationship between NFTs and a certain company called Square Enix, who happens to be currently I mean, actually owns and hosts probably my only played MMO at the moment, other than Dungeons and Dragons Online, which is Final Fantasy XIV. So, I was a bit out of the loop about this, and it seems that there's been a New Year's letter published by the president, and I was thinking we can just sort of go into it and maybe elaborate a little bit more on my opinions of NFTs, etc., and just provide you with some gaming news otherwise, because this is probably going to be the first gaming news video. So, if we just hop on to the good old full screen, as we have done before, I believe on one of the other videos, or especially one of the Twitch streams. So obviously starts off, we'd like to begin by wishing everyone a happy new year. The metaverse was a hot topic in 2021. I mean, in my personal opinion, I really didn't know that much about it. And the only reason why I kept up to date about NFTs and the metaverse was because it was such a niche level of interest and sort of garnering all that attention in the niche tech side that I kept my ear to the wall on it. Inspiring a lively global conversation about what the metaverse is and then what sort of business opportunities it would present. Against this backdrop, Facebook changed its name in October to Meta, servicing as evidence that the concept is not a mere buzzword here to say. While I unfortunately still call Facebook, not Meta, and a majority of my friends don't even know it's changed. It's kind of interesting to actually see how many people actually know Facebook's official name has been changed to Meta, because it just went past like a train going past a train stop without stopping. This metaverse has garnered so much attention in 2021, it was dubbed the Metaverse year. While obviously there are other metaverses out there, such as Earth 2, you've got another one which is like Star Exodus or something that's recently come out, or is being processed. And there's a lot of NFT-based or blockchain-based games that are currently going out there. So I guess it is the Metaverse year because it's the year it started. But I wouldn't really give any more credence to that than it actually is. I attribute this to a large part in the advances of extended reality XR technology and the prevalence of the cloud and 5G, more sophistication in blockchain technology, and other technological evolutions that have taken away in a variety of fields over the past few years. These advances, that is because these advances are giving rise to services that fall under the metaverse umbrella. The metaverse will see a meaningful transition to a business phase in 2022, with a wide range of services appearing at the scene as this abstract concept and construct sort of makes sense, begins to take shape in a concrete form, in the form of services and products. I'm hoping that it will bring about changes that will have a more substantial impact on our business as well. A little bit loose open on there, but naturally, given that it's in the concept stages as they've sort of advised, I can sort of get behind that. Another term that quickly gained quick currency, funnily enough, despite the fact it is pretty much being used as currency at the moment, in 2021 was the NFT, or non-fungible token, which is a fun thing in itself. The advent of non-fungible tokens, NFTs, using in blockchain technology has increased the liquidity of digital goods, enabling trading on a variety of such goods and services at high prices, sparking conversations the world over. Yeah, because you can buy pictures, animated digital pictures, for thousands of dollars and then resell them for $1,001 because it's tied into crypto in some cases, and you have a market for people who basically want to be a fool in his goods. A fool in his money is so easily parted sort of situations, but hey, who knows? Sparking all over. I see 2021 not only as a year of the Metaverse year one, but also NFTs year one, given that it was the year in which NFTs were met with a great deal of enthusiasm by a rapidly expanding user base. However, we do observe examples here of overheated trading in NFT digital-based goods with somewhat speculative overtones, regardless of the observed value of the contents provided. This obviously is not an ideal solution. There's a missing bullet point then. Not bullet point, full stop. This is not the ideal solution, but I expect the eventual right-sizing of digital goods in deals as they become more commonplace to the general public with the value of available content corrected to the true estimated worth. I look forward to them becoming familiar as dealings in physical goods. So I can kind of give them that. Digital, you 20 years ago, you'd go out to a game store and buy the CD, right? And 10 years ago, if that, or so late 2000s, you started to find more and more games were starting to become more digitally orientated. You could buy the game online in a digital format, and you wouldn't have to go to the store to get it, etc. So the process of these actions is sort of understandable, but I don't really think this is a good equation, given that you're getting a game instead of an image. You kind of starting to guess where my opinion on NFTs starts to lie. To address these business, medium bids and strategy we unveiled in 2020 identified AI, the cloud, and blockchain gaming as the new domains that we should focus our investments, and we have subsequently been aggressive in our R&D and investments into that area. The AI space, we established Square Enix AI and Arts Co. In March 2021, development appers into the wider field of entertainment AI rather than being constrained by the more traditional concepts of gaming AI. Firm's R&D focuses on natural language processing, world models, and simulation technology. Not my area of expertise. I mean, AI is always going to be that sort of HAL 2000 lurking in the background, so I assume that they're going to find something interesting coming out of that. These will help us develop games and release into the world, enhance their overall quality, but that's not all. By incorporating these outputs of these R&D efforts in virtual avatars and elsewhere, we plan to the output to a wide variety of content that is not relevant technologies to other companies in the view of leveraging these R&D efforts that are across our entire digital entertainment business. Okay, we'll have to see where that goes. The next paragraph in regards to this is obviously regarding cloud and 5G technologies, which we obviously, a lot of us are now starting to actually understand is quite good. I mean, I don't use StreamCloud to save my game files. I put that on my PC, but eventually when my PC goes underwater, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be annoyed when that happens. We're exploring the potential efforts in the cloud space from two primary perspectives. I can't speak today. The first, leveraging cloud technologies to distribute content, and the second, in developing content that offers customers new forms of excitement enabled by the cloud's attributes. More telecommunication infrastructure is being built, as exemplified by the expanding 5G coverage and devices that are making performance gains. As these trends continue, I believe that the content we will provide will become more accessible, making it more likely that our customers will discover enjoyment as we touch on new touch points. Leveraging cloud technologies is extremely effective as a means of making our content and services uniformly available as a catalyst for creating new forms of excitement that expand upon the content development capabilities for which we are known. As such, we'll be making ample investments in cloud space. Fair enough. We know cloud works. I'm not going to linger on it much more. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great tool to utilize. Lastly is blockchain games. Here's the meat and potatoes. Because be they single-player or online games have traditionally have a unidirectional flow whereby creators such as themselves provide a game for consumers to play with. Fair enough. By contrast, blockchain games, which have emerged from their infancy, I wouldn't even say they've really emerged from their infancy, but I would like an example of where they have, and I'll have a look into it, are an example at this point at the moment, entering a growth phase. Correct, there's a lot of them around. And are built on the premise of a token economy and therefore have potential for enabling self-sustaining game growth. The driver that most enables such sustaining games growth is diversity, both in how people engage in an interactive content like games and in motivations for doing so. Advances in token economies will likely add further momentum to this trend of diversification as players, quote unquote, play to earn concept has people excited as a prime example of this. Need a drink because this is quite thirsty work. So self-sustaining game growth in what sense is probably what I'm going to go for, because if you're going to target a niche part of a niche argument, for instance, say for instance tomorrow Final Fantasy 14, which is kind of where I'm getting this from now, decided to go fully like NFT based in just a snippet, you click your fingers, you send the NFT. I don't know what exactly you would gain from that, but that's being slightly facetious on my part. He does elaborate a little bit further down here. I realise that some people who have play to have fun and who currently form the majority of players have voiced their reservations towards these new trends. There's a reason why, and understandably so, because there is a reason for it. However, there are a certain number of people whose motivations to play to contribute, by which I mean to help make the game more exciting. Traditional gaming is not offered no explicit incentive for this latter group of people who are motivated strictly by such inconsistent personal feelings, such as goodwill and volunteer spirit. This fact is not related to the limitations of using existing UGC, user-generated content. UGC has been brought into being solely because of an individual's desire for self-expression, and not because of any explicit incentive that is existed towards them, rewarding them for their created efforts. I see this one reason why there haven't been that many major game-changing contents that were user-generated, as one would expect. While in a closed development process, I would argue that it's realistically on the developer, not the player, to generate that said content. Going back to Final Fantasy XIV, I mean, the biggest example I can think of user-generated content was Tablecloth, based on Balmung, where they managed to get themselves killed as their avatar and ended up lying down on a table whilst they were doing so, and they were called Tablecloth, and they were a Lalafell dressed as a tablecloth, and eventually they added the feigned death emote, which I think is basically one of the aspects that you can argue this is sort of seeped its way in, but that might just be because the FF14 guys just enjoy a joke and Tablecloth got that big. However, the advances in token economies, users will be provided with an explicit incentive, thereby resulting not only in the greater consistency for their motivations, but also creating a tangible upside to their creative efforts. I believe that will lead to more people devoting themselves into such efforts, to greater possibilities of games growing in exciting ways. From having fun to earning to contributing, there are a wide variety of motivations that will inspire people to engage with their games and connect with one another. It is primarily blockchain-based tokens that will enable this. By designing a viable token economies in our games, we will enable self-sustaining game growth. It is precisely this sort of ecosystem that lies in the heart of what I refer to as decentralized gaming, and I hope that it will become a major trend in gaming going forward. If we referred this to the one-way relationship where gamers and game providers are linked by the finished project as centralized gaming, and contrast it to decentralized gaming, then incorporating decentralized games into our portfolio, in addition to the already centralized games, will be a major strategic theme starting us from 2022. The basic and elemental technologies to enable blockchain games already exist, and there has been a increase in its societal illiteracy and acceptance of crypto assets in the past few years. We will keep a close eye on societal shifts in this place, while listening to many people and many groups of users that populate it, and ramp up our efforts to develop business accordingly, and with an eye to potentially issuing our own tokens in future. Well, I don't know about you specifically, but non-fungible tokens have never really hit home for me, right? And the reason why they've never really hit home for me is because I like playing a game because it's a game. I don't like playing a game when it becomes a job. Now, this is an incredibly facetious opinion, by the way. You can take my opinion with a pinch of salt, and probably a whole barrel full eventually at this point, because I am quite salty. I'm not personally enthused by having NFTs in the games, and from the sounds of it, I don't think we will expect it in Final Fantasy XIV, which is a little bit of a scaremonger tactic. I think some people who've commented on this might highlight. I don't think it's necessarily going to be in Final Fantasy XIV, but I kind of get the inclination that if for instance, Square do another MMORPG, it's going to be in there, for instance. I think that might be a good example about what will happen going forward, and in potentially further Final Fantasy releases, etc., and anything under the Square Enix brand, you'll probably see a load more games that are going to have sort of NFT components. I mean, the 2010s, we had loot boxes in games. It's 2020s, we're going to have NFTs in games. The problem is that loot boxes have got such a bad rap just from the fact that they were more gambling, whereas an NFT is probably going to have not so much when the general public comes to understanding it. I mean, you can't really argue against something which you get in the aspect of a non-fungible token. The fact you own it. I mean, it'll probably bring digital, legal, like the legalities of owning digital content into the foray. Like you'll have to have the argument about, well, I own X item in X game, who actually has the end say? Because, for instance, if a developer or GM takes my lovely NFT sword that I got and made after all this time, maybe purchased a load of in-game assets for money from other players that were NFTs to make this great super NFT out of it, which is one of the sort of progresses that you could do with these weapons, because Ubisoft went on to try and make NFTs in the game, which went about as well as you think it would do. What would happen if someone removed that item from someone's inventory then? Say that a GM accidentally bans your account because they think you're botting, for instance. This is a facetious thought process, but let me go on for it a little bit. So you have a content creator, you've put all that money in, he comes out, the item gets deleted, right? Does that person then have the legal right to sue you? Because it's technically the destruction of intellectual property, or the destruction of property. Because if you're arguing a non-fungible based token is the whole process of owning that specific thing, and then that specific thing gets deleted, do we end up with a process where there's legal ramifications for this action? Do I go to a small claims court, and do I really submit a court documentation for the destruction of my online sword against said company if they go in and delete my account? But I digress. We've gone off on a little thing. I might actually do a further video on NFTs about why I think they're a bit dumb, but I could be wrong, and I probably will be. Our lifestyles have changed, and we are learning to coexist with COVID-19. Against that backdrop, I believe the new technologies and concepts that I have discussed and the changes they have brought in a business environment will provide us with numerous opportunities to enrich people's lives through the digital entertainment, which is the core of our business. This, at the same time, means that we are seeing the beginnings of further leaps for our business. I could sound more robotic if I really tried to. We remain to creating, developing, and providing world-class content, and will contribute to the happiness of society and its people by offering new forms of excitement. I wish you all the best for 2022. Yosuke Matsuda. Probably said that wrong as well. Well, what do I? So topping off this video, why have I done this? Why have I put my neck out there? Why have I wanted to actually say something? I don't disagree with the act of NFTs, right? I think they're dumb. I personally think non-fungible tokens are a dumb idea, right? And it's not because I see $69,000 portraits and I think, damn, I wish I got on that train early. You know, I could be making millions of virtual bucks off it. I think that it's a dangerous concept to bring into games, specifically because if you're say for instance this is a game of 18 plus, right? You slap a mature tag on there because it has to deal with like personal ownership, etc., rules, regulations, and whatnot. That's another big thing that'll probably happen as a result of this. You're gonna have a situation where an 18-year-old is not gonna really understand the concept of an NFT. If an 18-year-old has £2,000, for instance, an 18-year-old is probably not going to have the mental maturity to realize this shiny thing worth £2,000 may or may not drop in value. Like, because you are trading, in effect, you are trading in stocks. An NFT is a stock. It is a other unregulated way of dealing with stocks, right? You have a speculative price on the NFT, you buy it at said price, and then you speculate that the NFT may get better in price. You could hold 500 stocks in Tesla, and then next day you could be double your money, next day you could be half your money. With an NFT, it's kind of the same boat. Why am I against Square Enix publishing in this in some games? Square Enix's sort of brand, depending on which one you go for, which game you go for, may have some detrimental consequences. I can't see it happening in Final Fantasy 14 or Final Fantasy because, as in affecting overall, a lot of the players tend to be older. A lot of Final Fantasy players tend to be older because of the older games, you know, people playing for nostalgia, etc. Kingdom Hearts. I think Kingdom Hearts has got a good chance of having NFTs in it. Problem is who gets the right to them, because you'd be fighting Disney for them. And I'm pretty sure Disney will be on the NFT train quite shortly. Who knows? Other than that, I'd like to know what you think personally on this, because I'm a little bit scared But at the same time, Square Enix are entitled to make games. They are entitled to do games as they are. And realistically, blockchain games are coming out as an emerging sort of market. I might try and play a few of them. I might see what's out there. But other than that, I'm not particularly too enthused on them. So with that sort of sad foray into probably a video that is way too long for what it should be, let me know what you think in the comments. If you have managed to stick around, feel free to like and subscribe if you can, and potentially share this video with any people who are also discussing what's happening with Square Enix at the moment. And once again, it's been Recent Revelry. It's a pleasure to meet you, and a pleasure to meet you again soon. Take care.